Hey everybody, we are back. Despite popular belief, despite the rumors, despite the little cyber goblins behind the scenes, spreading misinformation, we're back with another episode.
Hold on, I was those cyber goblins.
Yeah, despite what Nyan, was posting across, 4chan and his furry discords, saying that we weren't going to record again.
Wait, you know about those?
Yeah. I wish I didn't, but I do. But yeah, despite what he said, we're back. We're recording again. So.
And I have to endure the rest of this episode knowing you know about those. So this will be great.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to add a new dynamic to the podcast. Really give it that extra edge that many were saying that it needed.
We aren't edgy enough. That's true.
All right, I do want to take some time to do something that I didn't do last episode, and that's introduce our epic, amazing new editor, Isaac's brother, Steve. I don't know what he wants to be called. I'm just going to call him Steve because Steve's like already a name, by the way. Who picks a moniker that's just a name?
That idiot, because he's really boring.
Yeah. I nigh exploded when I learned that his name was not Steve.
Well, life's full of disappointments.
Anyway,
as his wife learned.
Anyway, Steve's great, and he volunteered to edit the podcast because I really hated doing it because it's very tedious and monotonous and boring, and that's why we went 7 months without releasing a new one because I did not want to edit the episode that we had.
You know what? Fair enough. I didn't do it once, so who am I to judge?
Yeah, turns out that just skimming through an hour of yourself talking, reliving a conversation that you already had just to pick out cards and put up pictures of them when you say the names of them is not very exciting.
You know what? I believe that.
But anyway, we got Steve to do it for us now. Say hello, Steve. Here's a opportunity for Steve to say hello in text.
He probably won't.
He probably will. I think he will.
I think he's a coward.
All right. Well, anyway, we're going to jump into it. We're going to jump right into our preliminary session. Section. That's what I meant. We're going to jump into our preliminary section here, and we're going to try to get through it a little quicker than we did last episode, because we spent way too much time talking about a fake ass card, I think.
True.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and read it off this time because I believe you did last time.
Yeah. Okay. So sure. This one is a shaper program that costs null credits to install. I'm not sure what to make of this.
Mystery credits. An unknowable amount of credits.
It's something. Divide by 0 amount of credits. It takes up 2 memory. It's called Ketsa, Kata Parlist. It's a program, icebreaker, decoder. Its text reads 1 credit, break 1 code gate subroutine. Use this ability only once per turn. It is 1 influence, but it has 12 strength.
12 strength, baby.
This is a lot. It's a lot of strength.
It does cost 2 MU as well, which I'm not sure if you mentioned or not.
I think I did, but it's possible I'm crazy.
Anyway, this card's fucking nut. It's interesting though. Like, it's interesting in that I don't think this card is very far off base from something that could have existed.
It's all, kind of a question of what number appears in the mystery credit box up there.
It's fair, right? And depending on what you put there, really changes this up.
For sure. If we're talking like 3 credits, I mean, yeah, maybe. Like, only being able to break 1 code gate subroutine a turn is pretty lame, but partner it up with some E3 feedback implants in kit and go to town.
Yeah, I think that this is just interesting, right? One thing I find about the bot is that it does just, out of just its random generation, kind of eke into some really interesting design spaces. It must be Cyber Destiny, I guess, because there are some cards generated that I've seen that are like, wow, that is actually like a really interesting design space.
Maybe one day we'll see one of those.
Yeah. But yeah, I do think that this could exist. It might be a little too strong with something like E3, and then shit. What's that other one where you can like spend clicks or whatever? There's like another one that's sort of E3 but not.
Why don't I remember this?
It was one of the later cards. I want to say that it was a shaper, like program or hardware or something.
Okay, so they released it after I was already after this game was already dead to me, and looking at it made me cry.
After you were already checked out.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Gotcha. All right. Well, funky stuff. Fun card, but we will go ahead and move on to real ones. I think
All right, well, I read that one, so you get the real card.
I do. Which I think you misheard me. I said that I was going to read the fake card, and then you just started reading it, and I was like, "All right, this guy's going for it." So I didn't stop you.
I wanted it.
He's like, "I want to read Ketsa, whatever the fuck." But anyway, all that means is that I get to read Victor 1.0, who is a ice.
I think you're jumping the gun a little bit here, actually.
Am I? Did I miss a card? Normally, I try to be
We
pretty good
wrapped, we
about this.
wrapped up on Heimdall last time, didn't we?
Sure. Who the next card that I have in my list is Victor.
That sounds like some communist propaganda to me. Victor is number 63. Heimdall is number 61.
Who did I miss here? Did I accidentally?
Ichi, my man.
Oh, Ichi's one of my favorites too. So all right, let me get our boy Ichi back in here then.
Apologies, ladies and gentlemen. This is only because Aaron has terminal brain cancer.
I played far too many stim hacks.
It's true.
All right, well, our lovely editor Steve can just edit this part out where I'm, trying to add the right card back in here that I guess somehow just got deleted from my list.
Impressive, really.
Oh, you know what? It is not that Ichi was deleted from my list. It's that
Oh.
for some reason in the zip of every Netrunner card image ever that I downloaded from Reddit, they are mislabeled in the files. So I do have Ichi. He's just mislabeled in the files as 63 rather than 62.
Weird.
All right. Well, anyway, so we have much better card spoilers. We instead of Victor, we have Ichi 1.0, who is a piece of ice. He is a Sentry, Bioroid, Tracer, Destroyer. If you thought that Heimdall had a lot of fucking subtypes, man, you were wrong. You were dead wrong.
Ichi's running out of text space here.
Yeah, he's pushing it to the limit here. I do wonder what the most amount of subtypes a piece of ice has is. Surely it can't be more than 4.
It's got to be. This has got to be the limit.
Anyway, he is a 4 strength sentry that is 5 to res, and he reads, the runner can spend a click to break any subroutine on Ichi 1.0. His subroutines are as follows. Trash 1 program, trash 1 program, trace 1. If successful, give the runner 1 tag and do 1 brain damage. And he comes out of the Haas Bioroid faction and is 2 influence. So, Isaac. Why is it unfortunate that Ichi ended up, kind of falling by the wayside in comparison to a lot of other sentries in the game, despite the fact that he, bar none, has the coolest art of any ice in the game?
He does have a freaking gun for an arm, and he's rocking those shades, so yeah. But Ichi's cool. And I don't just mean in the sunglasses and gun arm kind of a way, but Ichi is a very interactive card. Like, the reason you love Ice so much, the reason everyone loves Ice so much, is because Ice is interactive. Ices are cards in the corporation's deck that the runner has to interact with. That's the whole point of them. And Ichi has a lot of ways to interact with him, and they're interesting things that happen, and his effects are interesting. It's not just, oh, he ends the run if you don't spend 2 clicks to get through him. No, he's going to blow up your rig. He's going to trash your programs. He's going to find you. He's going to give you brain damage.
He'll find you. He's gonna shoot you. He's gonna shoot your shitty little corroder.
And when he's done with your corroder, he's coming for your brain.
Exactly. No, I love Ichi. Ichi might be my favorite ice in the whole game. Um, you know, that may change as we move on to some other things, and I, kind of some memories get jogged, but I love Ichi. I included Ichi 1, I think in just about every iteration of my next deck that I ran. I'd be curious to see if that's true, because like I said, he kind of looked less awesome, as the game went on and some other stuff sort of started to get introduced.
To a certain
Um,
extent. Though Sentry Breakers really never got more efficient than they were at the beginning, which was kind of interesting.
they didn't
So
get more efficient, but they definitely got a lot of support tools, and uh, the, yeah, I mean, I guess that's fair. It just did seem that there was a point, I guess, especially um, in regards to like the sort of Faust, meta and stuff like that. That I think things like Ichi were, kind of not great.
I don't know if I entirely agree there. Like, Faust is usually 3 cards and a click to get past Ichi. That's not cheap. Faust can pay cards, and sure, cards aren't money, but you run out of cards.
Yeah,
Spending 3 to get past one piece of ice is difficult.
I think that's true. I think I meant more specifically like the Cipher meta more than
Sure.
Faust.
Blowing up
Um,
ice is a big bummer.
yeah. And yeah, so the thing about Ichi, right, is that he's just a really solid piece of ice for the runner to have to deal with. And then during, certain parts of the game where runners were more focused on just not dealing with ice, um, he he shined a little less, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's true. And it's really more just a matter of the power creep that the game underwent. Ichi was top of his game for a long time. Like,
Yeah. And, I could be wrong. Maybe I just remember that Ichi seemed a little less commonplace and just a little bit less of a, not a powerhouse, but, he lost a lot of his luster, toward the later part of the game, I felt. But, I could be wrong. Maybe I just interpreted that.
you're probably correct. You played more right at the end of the game's life cycle than I did. But I was putting Ichi in decks and having good success with him right up until I stopped having tournaments in my area.
And I mean, the reason for that, because we'll get into some more actual conversation about Ichi himself rather than the meta surrounding him, is just Ichi has got some good ass numbers.
Sexy numbers.
I mean, you want to talk about cards and numbers, and how they are very important to have. It is very important for cards to have good numbers on them. Ichi's got some good ones.
Tell me about his numbers.
First one, 1.0. That's pretty great. I mean, he's the first one. That's pretty sick. That's a good number.
Mean, there might have been beta versions out there,
I
but
guess.
Ichi is an alpha.
Dude, all right. I'm a little tangent here, but wouldn't it have been cool if the game went on long enough to where we got like beta versions of the Bioroids?
It would have been cool, yeah.
Anyway, never mind. So first of all, the big 4 on the strength. That is very important, and became very important actually later. I may be wrong. I might be flipping the switch here. Maybe Ichi only got better as the game went on. Now that I think about it, because 4 is out of mimic range, which is very important.
Yep.
4 is also just under David range, which became very important.
Also true.
So Ichi 1.0 sits in a sort of what became a really sweet spot strength of 4, and especially for a sentry. A lot of sentries that ended up coming out really had like pretty pitiful strength a lot of the times.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I think about things that came out like, I don't know, Guard pops to mind for whatever reason.
Which I ran.
Caduceus. Like there are a lot of sentries in the low strength range. Like even stuff like Komainu, which wound up being very taxing nonetheless most of the time, very low strength.
Still very low strength. You get your Surugis.
Mm-hmm.
I know that fucking what, that piece of shit Zed 1.0, isn't he like 2 strength? Is why he was terrible, even outside of all his like shitty subroutines that did nothing.
Yeah, those didn't help.
Yep. Anyway, I completely lied. I went ahead, logged into my Netrunner DB, and the very last deck that I ever built in the game, and this would have been the very last, or I guess not the last deck that I ever built in the game, but the last competitive deck that I built out of Next Design had 3 Ichi ones in there, so he was worth slotting 3 of to the very end as far as I was concerned.
No, I would very rarely slot 3 of Ichi. I would commonly slot 2 of them.
I had 3. I also had 2 guards though, like I mentioned. I liked guard a lot.
When inside job was common, guard was nice to have. I won't lie about that.
For me, it was just about having a cheap, hard end the run sentry. But anyway,
Yeah, sure.
point is, we're talking about Ichi. So back to his numbers. Another one that is important is 2 being the number of trash program subroutines that he had.
Mm-hmm.
And they are separate too. So it's not that it's one subroutine that says trash one. It's not one subroutine that says trash 2 programs that you could break. He trashes 2 programs out of 2 separate subroutines, which is important.
Yes, yes, it is. You got to pay twice to save your poor little corroder there. And one of the Ichi's. All right, this is a little bit of a different tangent from the numbers thing we're talking about, but Ichi was in this weird place. Sentries are the threatening ice. Barriers tend to keep people out. Code gates do funky things, and sentries do bad stuff to the runner.
Yes.
But this makes it so that it is difficult for the runner to just run and face check ice without having a sentry breaker installed. Because maybe their hand gets wiped out. Maybe they start losing programs that they really don't want to. But because Ichi's a Bioroid, you've got some kind of grace you can work with off of that, where you can spend clicks to save your poor corroder or the 6 viruses you have installed on that Scheherazade from being trashed.
Or the 37 programs that you have, or the 37 Scheherazade Jin leprechaun tree that you've amassed.
Right, yeah, that horrifying thing.
Right. So that's the thing, is that if you've got purple in front of you, especially, arguably more so if you've got red in front of you. But in Ichi's case, if you've got purple in front of you, you can't just be running servers willy-nilly when you have something that you want installed. You just can't do it.
Yeah. I will say the Trace 1 is not great. It's not great. And not just because Trace is a garbage mechanic.
Yeah, not outside of Trace just sucking. I mean, a Trace 1 also just sucks in general. But it's almost like Ichi doesn't even need that though, right? Like Ichi would be just as playable, and I think fine if that Trace subroutine just didn't exist. If it was just 2 Trash 1 program subroutines. But he's got it as just a little extra tip, like a keep the change kind of situation from my man Ichi here.
Right. Yeah. A lot of the times, if you're playing at the height of criminal dominance and you're playing against Andromeda, she'd just let that Trace run because she's got 20 credits and you've got 3, and she's just like, spend your money. I don't care. But sometimes, if you're like you're playing against some poor Anarch or some Shaper that's running on their last click and has penny pinched all of their numbers together to be sure that they can get in, they're not risking that Trace 1 so that you can trash all of their resources if you actually tag them.
Yeah. I will say that Trace 1 tag and brain damage shows up big against desperate runners.
Yes, for sure.
I have absolutely had cases where runners, they were just running desperate, trying to get in and do what they can, and ended up with a tag and a brain from Ichi. And I've been able to trash some important resources on the next turn, because they went for broke, on a run and just took the Ichi trace.
Yep.
So that's the thing about it is, it's shitty just at face value, right? But because it's just sort of a free subroutine, like just a free extra subroutine, it doesn't have to be great, and there are circumstances where you definitely get it to fire and get some huge value out of it.
It's kind of a like, but wait, there's more at the end of this infomercial in
Exactly.
which he has trashed your rig.
Exactly. It's like, is it great? No, but but it was a free gift. Anyway, last number here that I'm going to talk about is the 2 influence, because 2 influence is very reasonable.
Yeah, 2 influence isn't bad. But I very rarely saw Ichi anywhere but in HB.
As did I, but I did see it sometimes. And it is one that can catch some people off guard. Coming out of somewhere, especially maybe like a Wayland, where the tag actually where the tag and the brain damage especially matter quite a bit.
Sure. Yeah. I think it's a
Um,
cute splash there.
yeah. And that's the thing about cute splashes, is that as long as it's not an insane amount of influence, which 2 isn't, then it's always, a possibility and something that can really catch people off guard. I did the same, with Cortex Lock out of my next design, which I think I've talked about before. Is that it's just 2 influence, a very reasonable influence to pay for something that can absolutely devastate somebody that doesn't see it coming, which is, anybody that, runs it without a sentry breaker.
Right. Yeah.
So, anyway, I don't know, Ichi's great. Ichi is Ichi is so good that it's really unfortunate that Ichi 2 is just kind of so shitty. But
yeah, we'll get to that.
yeah, we'll get to that one day. But I mean, it's just one of those things where how can you really make Ichi better without making him too good,
Yeah, no, like Ichi is one of those that they just kind of knocked out of the park with the balance spot for him. He wasn't like an auto include, you're going to run 3 of him every time no matter what, because if you like draw 3 Ichis in your opening hand, kind of sucks. You want some ice that's going to keep them out and encourage them to go install things for Ichi to trash. But he's great at his job.
I will say that as a next design player, that him showing up in the initial ability, or in the initial hand, for the ability is like kind of somebody showing up like 30 minutes early to a party.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I mean,
I guess
come
I guess
in.
you can be here, but why?
Yeah, yeah, come in, I guess. But I mean, I really wasn't done setting up. So, yeah, I think we kind of talked about all the ins and outs, not in order, but I think we really covered everything. So I'm good to move on to flavor if you are.
Yeah, let's talk about the flavor. You want me to read his flavor text?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. It says, "My reputation would precede me if any could speak of it." Very ominous.
Very great. I like his definitely edgy, right? But I think we've already talked about that. Ichi, he's just an edgy guy. He's an edgy ice, and
I
so
mean, it's the sunglasses and the fact that you have a gun for an arm. I think it kind of lends you to that sort of lifestyle.
exactly. You would definitely hear about this guy if he hadn't fucking shot him already. But yeah, no, I think his flavor is great. I mean, just everything about it, like his effect is exactly what I would think that this fucking gun-armed robot dude in the art would do.
Yeah, yeah. He's gonna blow up your computer, and then he's gonna try to blow your brains out.
Yep, he's just a badass.
I like that he goes for your rig first, so that before you get brain damage, you have to watch him trash your stuff. It's like it's like in The Big Lebowski. He just walks into your living room and pees on your rug.
Yeah, well, and I like kind of your point that the order that that's in. That he could just shoot you first, but she's gonna shoot your stuff first and then shoot you.
Yeah.
One thing that I will bring up that I think is a little underrated because I've had some people criticize like Ichi's art in the past, which I really don't understand. I think Ichi's art is perfect, and it's one of my favorites in the game. But just because it looks so like gritty almost, like it's not bright. The coloring, while still communicating that this is like cyberspace or whatever, is much more subdued than a lot of other art that we got, especially later in the game.
Yep.
Where everything that was being communicated as being cyberspace, or non-meat space or whatever. Very bright, flashy, vibrant, shiny. Like very in your face. This isn't a
Yeah.
computer.
Yeah.
But this is not like that. This is a lot more, subdued,
Tasteful.
gritty. Yeah, tasteful.
As tasteful as a gun arm ever is.
Yeah. I think that his art is great. And just looks really cool and is one of my favorites again. All right, we ready to rate our boy here?
I'm ready, and Ichi's getting 5 stars from me. I love this dude.
You know what? I am in total agreement. We should just erase the decimal from his name because he's Ichi 10 as far as we're concerned. Because I'm giving him a 5.2.
Nice.
He's just perfect. Yeah, he's just perfect.
Just the sweetest boy ever.
Alrighty. Now I will go backwards in my cards because they're mislabeled. And we will now talk about his little baby brother.
The better dressed one.
Arguably. But take it away, Isaac.
All right, next up we have Victor 1.0. Victor is a 3 strength, 3 to res piece of ice. His subtypes are Codegate, Bioroid, and AP. His text reads, the runner can spend a click to break any subroutine on Victor 1.0, and his subroutines are do 1 brain damage and end the run. And he is 2 influence. Okay, like on the surface, this doesn't seem too bad, Aaron. So you do a brain damage. There's no like silly trace that you have to do first, and you end the run. Why didn't people play this card?
Because Yogg exists.
And that's it. We can go to the next card.
Right. This is a really unfortunate card for me. And this is like an opposite Ichi situation for me personally. Because I basically never ran Victor 1.0 because of things already discussed. I guess thing already discussed being Yogg. But I for a while ran quite a bit of Victor 2.0. Because
It's a difference.
Yeah, because I did find that Victor 2.0 was actually a pretty solid and seldom expected, mid-range ice. That was in the code gate category, and so, but unfortunately, Victor 1 just not very good.
No, and it's not. And Yogg is one thing, but it's also that you can just bounce off of him for a click.
Yeah.
And then he's harmless. It's not awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, even if you do surprise somebody with it, as long as they're not running last click against HB, which, don't know if we've maybe talked about that in previous episodes.
If they're running last click against HB, they already have brain damage. We'll put it that way.
Yeah, right. I mean, I'm sure we've talked about it in previous episodes, but just in case you weren't aware, don't run last click against HB.
Yeah, good advice.
But anyway, yeah, if they do run and have a click left, they can just lose a click and then bounce off the end of the run. And essentially, he's just an enigma at that point. I don't know. I mean, is there a situation where this card is good?
When Yogg cycled out, maybe.
Yeah, but even then, I think that there were still better alternatives.
Better options.
Yeah.
Yep. And honestly, I think when Yogg did, Victor did too.
No, Yogg or Victor 1 was still in core 2.
Was he?
Because
Okay.
Yogg didn't cycle out per se. Yogg was just not in Core 2. So.
You're right. You're right.
Because they made that fancy wording that made everybody excited for like a year before they actually did it.
Oh yeah, and Victor 2's art, or Victor 1 in Core 2, I should say, his art is very different.
I just have the regular Core 1 art here, so Steve will have to throw up that alt art there.
Yeah, it's different. It's different.
Probably, if I had to guess, just going based on how art ended up in the game, probably much shinier.
You are correct. It's shiny and it's purple.
I mean, I like one of those things at least. Purple's badass.
Solid color on the whole.
But anyway, I think people have definitely tried to make things like this work out of stronger together. Hold your laughter. And with trying to there was a fool's errand, to try to run, say, like stronger together, and then like maybe some experiential data and shit like that to
Sure.
really beef up some of these bioroids that were not very beefy, and then by extension make the already beefy bioroids like extra beefy, because in your mind, right, like that sounds pretty sick. Like, hey, like Victor gets jacked, but then Heimdall is also just super hella mega jacked.
Yeah, pretty much.
But I mean, at the end of the day, it just doesn't really work. At least not work in the sense that it's worth just getting free money over the course of the whole game and just running normal fucking Ison cards.
Yeah.
Damn you, ETF.
Classic ETF. It's yeah. I don't know.
Anyway.
Is there much more to say about Victor?
No, it's not. He was just he was what we call dead on arrival.
He sure was in your binder.
You only played him if you were playing Core 1, and I think that's just because, like, to make a fucking HB deck, you, like, had to.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like, I don't even know, like, could you get to 45 cards? You just didn't run Victor, and I guess still have any ice to play with?
Maybe if you spent all your influence on ice, which is a weird thing for HB to be doing.
Not if you're next design. Anyway. Yeah, I'm ready to go to flavor, I guess. There's unfortunately not much to be said about our poor suit and tie wearing boy, Victor here.
Right. Well, you want to read his flavor?
Yeah, sure. His flavor is, my name is Victor. Nice to meet you. Would you like to play a game?
By itself, the flavor text, not that great. The fact that his art has him in a suit and holding a gun, I think improves it.
It does. I will say though that feels a little too try hard to me in comparison to say like Ichi's, where Ichi's like at face value seemed kind of like edgy and try hard, but just really fit in with just sort of his ethos.
So I think this fits too, because Victor is trying too hard, but he's garbage.
That's true. He's trying really hard, but he sucks.
Yeah.
All right, you know what? You've sold me. Perfect flavor text. All right, let's slap some ratings on our poor guy here.
2. I guess 2. I don't hate Victor, but he doesn't deserve more than that.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Victor has not wronged me in any way. He's not offensive to look at like some cards that we've talked about. But I mean, he's kind of shitty, so gotta give him the old Tuski.
Sounds right to me.
Ooh, next we have an interesting one. One might say a polarizing one. And that is Roto Turret. Which Roto Turret is another HB Ice. It is a Sentry and Destroyer. It is 4 Therese and has 0 strength. It also has 2 subroutines, which read trash 1 program and end the run. And it is 1 influence out of the HB faction. So, Isaac.
Mm-hmm.
Why was Roto Turret like pretty spicy in some circumstances, but then just like abjectly terrible in a lot of others?
Well, it comes down to 3 things, I think. First, if you're playing against HB, You run early on your turn to like suss out what their ice is so that you can kind of click through things if you run into some trouble and you're still pretty safe. You make them spend their money and you're like, okay, it's some opportunity cost both ways, but now I know what's up. Well, Rototurret just kind of can be a big old kick right in the genitalia, where you make that run and you've got your little corroder set up because you were trying to sneak past a wall of static earlier. Well, now your corroder's gone.
Yep. This is the counter to the previously discussed strategy of always having clicks to spare, right? When you're running against HB.
Yeah.
Uh,
Other why it didn't work out though kind of goes down to its numbers. 4 is not cheap, and 0 is not high.
yeah. So here's the thing, right? 4 to res. That's only one cheaper than Ichi, who you will get far more value, far more mileage out of than a
Much better
Rototurret.
as taxing ice.
Yes. So even in the circumstance, right, where Rototurret doesn't get insta trashed by a parasite, which is something that I'll go into a little bit later here. All it is just going to be 2 credits to get through each time, which isn't nothing. It isn't terrible, but it's also just not great.
Yeah.
Now, that's very best case scenario for you. The more often than not scenario, especially if you were playing in tournaments, around the early, like Genesis cycle era of the game, is the more often scenario is you would run into a roto, or they would run into your Rototurret, and then they would instant install Parasite onto it mid run and destroy it before it could do anything.
Yeah, that was really sad. Like that was the big bummer because you just paid 4 to try to like wipe out a critical piece of their rig and keep them out, and they're just like, "Yeah, 2 credits. I'm in, and this is gone." How do you feel about life? And you feel bad. That's how.
Yeah. And really, you wouldn't even res it. I mean, you would just feel sad for including it. Well, actually, no. What would happen is you would res it, because if you were playing at that time and had this in your deck, you were probably new.
It's yeah. Though I would sometimes run roto turrets, but the most common place I would have for a roto turret was in fast advance NBN.
Yeah, I can see that as a nice cheeky splash. Because again, talking about numbers, 1 influence, nice and cheap.
Mm-hmm.
So
And maybe like gives you that little bit of scoring window because NBN Fast Advance is all about just racing the runner to the finish line. And if you can knock out their corroder real quick, suddenly your wraparounds look a lot better.
yeah, definitely. If anything, this is a gear check ice with an added sting that you may or may not get to fire off.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, much like Yogg, really, maybe less so, but in the same vein that Yogg really trivialized the existence of Victor, Parasite, again, less so, but still trivialized quite a bit the existence of Rototurret,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it would just die. It would just die, and oftentimes immediately off of a personal workshop.
Yeah. Which is unfortunate because I really do actually like Roto Turret.
I do too. Rototurret's always been one that I've had to, that I've wanted to be able to convince myself to put in decks, but then just the proof always ended up being in the pudding. Like, why don't I run this card? Oh yeah, this is why.
It was worm pudding.
Yep. And that's why, as far as just, for my gear check sentry, I opted to just go with guard instead. Same cost, had 2 strength, so it couldn't be insta blown up, and it still had a hard end the run.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I landed.
Well, shall we talk about its flavor? Because this
Yeah.
didn't really impact the meta much.
No.
It was just parasite food. Parasite was very common, and so this was not.
Yeah. This did not affect the meta. It was a casualty of the meta that arose. But flavor wise, I've always thought that Rototurret was kind of weird, right? And it was weird when you think about it. It was a weird piece of ice because it's this ice that like, and especially as you're thumbing through the cards, you get into this feeling, right, that okay, Haas Bioroid, oh, they've got these Bioroid ice, they got these weird robot dudes. That's what these guys do. And then you get to Rototurret and you're like, oh, huh.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of out of place, and I think that's why they put it here.
Sure. There is something that I like about how weird it is, though. Like Rototurret, just this weird little turret. The art is kind of.
It's like someone is put like a cyberpunk filter over one of the turbo lasers on the Death Star.
Yeah, somebody went to fucking like Face App or whatever and put the cyberpunk filter on a Death Star turret. This might be this might go over your head, but for my music nuts out there, specifically for my shoegaze heads, this fucking looks like somebody just took like a turret from the Death Star, put a cyber filter over it, and then slapped it on top of the album cover for Loveless by My Bloody Valentine. Which I'm not sure if you're familiar with that album and what the album art is, but if you looked it up, I think you would know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, weirdly, my girlfriend at the time took me to their tour for that album. So
oh, interesting. Dang. All right. Isaac gonna get some hipster creds from me. Anyway, yeah, that's what it looks like. So, the flavor text is kind of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know. Not much more to be said, I don't think, about Rototurret.
No. It's cute.
Yeah. So what are we rating Rototurret?
I'm giving it 3 because I like it and it kind of had a place, but it wasn't very good. If I was rating it on quality, it would be lower, but I like it, and this is my rating.
I was on the verge of giving it a 3 as well, but I feel like we've been too aligned. And I really didn't like Rototurret, like when the game was around. It's just like I could never put it in my deck. I always wanted to, but it always just felt like I just can't run this. Like this just is not worth running basically ever. And so for that, I'm gonna slap it with the 2. I know it might feel kind of bad to put it in the same, give it the same rating that I gave Victor. But I could just never find a good excuse to run this card.
I suppose that's fair.
I slotted this card as much as I slotted Victor. So,
ouch.
Alrighty, we're cruising along pretty good here. Oh, this card. Well, we're out of the ice. We're out of the ice forest now. Is it your turn to read this one? Did I read Rototurret?
I think I read Rototurret.
All right, well, I'm going to read Corporate Troubleshooter then. Corporate Troubleshooter is an upgrade with the Connection subtype, which was very funny at one point in the game. And it is 0 to res and 2 to trash. And it reads, X credits and trash. Choose a piece of resed ice protecting the server. That ice has plus X strength until the end of the turn. And it is 1 influence out of HB still. So, Isaac.
Yeah.
Why does this card suck?
Because corps are poor and runners are rich, and this is some bull crap. All right.
Yeah, it's just...
Let's talk about the opportunity cost you have to have here. 1, you have to slot this card in your deck. Okay. You have to draw it at the right point. You have to draw it at a point where it's going to be useful. You now have to spend a click installing it on probably your agenda server. This anywhere but a scoring server is a really weird take because this only works once. And then you have to have enough money to res it, pay X, and pump 1 piece of ice beyond the runner's ability to get in. And then you have to still be able to score out of that server the next turn. You know how much money we're talking about here? all of this money spent, the runner did not have to spend to pay it, because 99% of the time, if you're doing this, you're pumping up an end of the run ice, so the runner's just going to go, oh, well, I can't pay that, and they're going to bounce off of it, and you're going to take your agenda. You know what, like the tiny sliver where this is actually going to win you a game and not just make you broke, and the runner's going to plunder your R&D for everything it's worth.
Yeah. This is another card, which we've talked about these sorts of cards in the past, where a lot of shit has to go right for you in order for this to like end up being worth it.
Yeah.
Because you have to have this, you have to have it installed, you have to have ice in the server that it's installed in. The runner then has to be running on the server that has the ice that you want to pump, that you have corporate troubleshooter in. You then have to have enough credit so that you can pump the ice that's on the server, that's on the same server that corporate troubleshooter is in, and enough money to pump it to where the runner cannot break it. And it's just too much. There's just too much.
This card is the fly on the frog, on the bump on the log, and the hole in the bottom of the sea.
You rattled that off pretty quick.
I liked that rhyme as a kid. Anyway, it's not even a rhyme. Whatever. But yeah,
so
the stars just have to align.
Yes, and more oftentimes than not, they are not going to. I would argue that the ideal scenario for this, or at least the scenario that you look for out of this, is not the end the run scenario that you kind of painted. Really, ideally, what you're boosting with this is a sentry that has a really like devastating amount of subroutines, or a sentry with subroutines that have really devastating effects.
Sure, if you res a Janus and you res a corporate troubleshooter and you have 10 million credits and you say, haha, runner, now you are going to take 4 brain damage. Something like that, I guess.
Yeah, I think the more likely scenario is something along the lines of, and I think this is probably where their headspace was at when they were designing it, is... okay, they're running on your you just use Roto Turret as an example. Sure. They're running on your Roto Turret, but you have corporate troubleshooter in there. So they think that they can just run and break your wimpy little Roto Turret with their Mimic. However, you're able to res it and pay the 4 credits, which is a lot. I mean, you're basically paying for Roto Turret a second time. But in that circumstance, you catch them with their pants down, so to speak, and you're able to get the trash program and end the runoff. That's like the scenario that I think this card is meant to be for.
Yeah. But again, it's just everything has to line up.
Everything has to line up. It's just too much damn money for something that can also be accomplished by just like playing better.
Yeah, that would be a thing.
That's harsh to say, but it's kind of true, right? I mean, if you're just a little more coy and a little more sly with some of your decision making and when you choose to res things, and because silly wacky cards like this, aren't necessary to get subroutines that you want to happen.
Yes, this is true. You just have to be sneakier. You have to outsmart the runner, which is more satisfying than outspending the runner anyway.
Yeah. And it's obviously this is another noob trap card, because this is a card that you read when you first opened the Android Netrunner core set for the first time, and you're thumbing through those shiny fresh new cards, and you stop at this and say, oh, what, that sounds crazy.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I could make anything happen. Well, could you though?
Yep. One thing that I do want to point out as well, because I think really at this point we can move on to flavor. I think this card sucks. Nobody played it. It wasn't good. It didn't have any effect on the meta because it was like shitty from the moment the box was opened. Yeah, I mean, sorry, corporate troubleshooter, but I just gotta call it like it is. But anyway, this is more in the flavor realm. But is this like the most like offensively what the fuck card to get alt art?
I don't remember the alt art.
There was an alt art for Corporate Troubleshooter, and it was pretty cool, I will say.
Hold on, let me look this up. Okay, yeah, you're not. I remember this now. Yeah, this is better.
Yeah, but why this card? This card fucking sucks ass, dude. What a waste. What a
I
piece of garbage alt art to get. I got this as the fucking participation prize for a fucking tournament. You might as well give me a used tissue.
I mean, this looks better in your binder than a used tissue does. I'll give it that.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that this is one of those ones where it's like, really, Fantasy Flight? This is what you got in the tournament kit for me?
Yeah, yeah. Well, why couldn't you just print more of those pretty data suckers?
Yeah, like I don't know. Part of me thinks that they were like trying to boost some sort of weird non-existent secondhand market that the point of the LCG system is supposed to like nullify the existence of, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Anyway, point is, I did want to point out too that the only notable thing that ever happened with Corporate Troubleshooter is that this is the only corp card, and I think this was before they realized that. So Connection is basically a runner subtype.
Yes.
Outside of Corporate Troubleshooter, corp cards do not have the Connection subtype.
Right.
So this caused some very funky stuff up until it became, up until there was an errata involved with a runner card that interacted directly with connection cards. Or was it a corp card that was connection? I don't know. Point is, you could do funky shit with Corporate Troubleshooter because it was a connection, and connections, as the game went on at least, were solely a subtype for runner resources.
Yeah, life is weird.
Yep. So Fantasy Flight fucked up their foresight, I guess, and I guess they just forgot that they gave Corporate Troubleshooter the connection subtype because it sucks and nobody ever used it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But hey, they say every dog has its day, and Corporate Troubleshooter had its day.
And what a day it was.
Flavor. The art's kind of shitty.
Yeah, it's not great. The flavor text, super corporate and boring. I solve problems. Wow.
Wow.
This is like what you read on someone's LinkedIn profile.
Yeah, and then the classic, and you can hardly even see it just because the art's like so shitty. But he's doing the classic, like pulling his gloves on
Right.
thing,
Yeah.
That badass fucking assassin suit wearing dudes do.
Yeah, but he doesn't even do that. He's not even an assassin. This dude, because he boosts ice, this is a computer nerd.
That is fair.
This guy is a geek.
This guy makes no sense actually, flavor wise.
No.
The flavor on this card sucks ass. Now that we talk
terrible.
about it,
it's actually really bad.
Yeah, the art is bad. The flavor text is bad. The function to flavor is arguably worse. Because what, you're telling me this fucking badass dude with his cyber car that looks like shit and doesn't make any sense from like this artist rendition, what, he's just gonna go cruise to his fucking desk job? Dude, this guy, his coworkers hate him. The coworkers hate this guy.
Listen, I am a programmer, and if I rolled up to work wearing a suit and tie and I pulled on like these Agent 47 gloves before I went into the office, people would laugh themselves sick at me.
Right. So I imagine that this guy does this every day, and everybody that works with him in his office hates him.
Oh yeah, guaranteed.
This is weird, just autistic guy that thinks he's fucking Hitman. Because when somebody was trying to get into one of the servers, he like typed something in and made it so they couldn't do that. And then his bosses called him and said, "You spent how much fucking money so that they couldn't see our IHOP receipts? What? You're fired."
Yeah, that's why you trash him, is because
Because
this guy immediately gets fired.
I mean, you spent $10 billion protecting what folder? I changed my mind. Corporate troubleshooter rocks. I'm giving this guy a 5. No, this guy sucks ass. 0.
That's why it's a connection, is because this is secretly a runner card.
Yeah, he's secretly a runner card. Anyway, rating. Corporate troubleshooter sucks ass. I give him a 0.
0, 100%. It's 0.
Oh man, what a funny card.
But it did make us laugh, so you managed that.
This is the most enjoyment that I think I've ever gotten out of corporate troubleshooter.
Guaranteed.
All right, we're at 4. We're just under an hour here. Do we want to try to squeeze another one in?
Oh, we can do one more.
Let's do it. Let's do one more, baby. All right. Speaking of which, you can for sure take this one, though.
Okay, next up we have experiential data. This is a Hospiroid upgrade. It costs 2 credits to res. It's an upgrade. I already said that. It reads, all ice protecting this server has +1 strength, and it is 2 credits to trash and 1 influence. Okay, Aaron, was this card possibly worse than Corporate Troubleshooter?
Well, what I will say first and foremost is that I do see that it threw you off because it didn't have a subtype.
It did a bit, yeah.
And you went to you went to read a subtype, and you were like, "Oh wait." Anyway, no, I don't think this card is actually nearly as bad as Corporate Troubleshooter. It certainly never. Well, here's the thing: is it certainly saw as much play, but like just out of like principle, just like base like card design and kind of the things we talked about with Corporate Troubleshooter, experiential data is far less offensively bad of a card than Corporate Troubleshooter is. I would say leaps and bounds less just abjectly terrible than Corporate Troubleshooter, despite the fact that nobody ever played this thing either.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing, Isaac, that you have to keep in mind, really one of the reasons why we do this podcast and why we're talking about all these shitty cards is because not all unplayed cards are created equal.
True.
And this I think is a prime example of that. Just 2 cards back to back that nobody ever fucking played. But experiential data, I can at least appreciate for what it is, and just sort of the simplicity of it.
Yeah, you kind of get what they were trying to do, but the numbers don't really work. Like, there's the opportunity cost we've talked about before. You have to include it, you have to draw it, you have to install it. But then you have to spend 2 credits to res it, and it's only 2 credits to trash. So sure, and effectively, most of the time, all ice protecting the server has +1 strength means the runner pays 1 credit additional for each piece of ice protecting the server. So you spend 2. If you're lucky, you have 3 pieces of ice. You rarely have more than that. And so the runner spends 3 more credits getting in, and then they spend 2 credits trashing it, and then it's over. That's the ride.
Yeah. So, all ice protecting the server is rarely going to be more than 3 in like the most ideal circumstance.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like you said, usually what that equates to is 3 extra credits on the runner's behalf, which granted isn't terrible. I mean, an extra 3 credits tagged onto a run, in some circumstances can be equivalent to a piece of ice.
Sure, but a piece of ice does not get trashed when the runner gets in and gets angry about having to spend those 3 credits.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest sin with this card really is the trash cost, because I could see this being a lot better if it had, say, like a 4 trash cost.
Sure, or if it was like 1 to res and had a 3 or 4 trash cost, then, maybe you're starting to think about this in some circumstances, but...
I do think, interestingly, this is a card that I don't think anybody ever really did, but toward the later, life of the game, like later in the life of the game, I think that this was a card that maybe was a little more worth looking at. was a card that was worth looking back at, because you ended up with those icebreakers, the 3 Anarch ones that where the ice's strength really mattered, because they could only boost by
Yeah,
like
the
a
dunk.
set amount.
Right, with Black Orchestra and MK Ultra, it gets very awkward at certain strengths. So maybe depending on your ice suite, this could be worth running. Maybe, sort of, probably not, but you could think about it.
Yeah, I think ultimately though, this is another card that's just card slots, man. There's better things that you can do with the deck slots that you would take up with experiential data.
Yeah, like put more ice in your deck or more money to res the ice that you have. Do either of those two things instead.
Right, and then it's just especially a few, or I guess not even a few, maybe just a couple. I don't know what cycle she was in, but just it really pales in comparison to some other upgrades that we got, that arguably we should not have gotten. But you compare this to something like a Caprice Nisei,
Oh boy.
or granted, it's actually kind of funny, or like an Ash 2X3CB97CY.
There's no 7, but yes, otherwise you got it.
Oh yeah, it's just yeah, okay. Anyway, point is, he'll be coming up here soon. I think he might be the very next card. Anyway, point is that he uh, ended up just being like a way better option,
Oh, for
than
sure.
experiential data.
Because he makes them potentially repeat a run, or he costs them more once they get in. He's got some legitimate stuff behind him.
Oh wait, I think I'm stupid. Ash isn't Corset. He's Genesis. He's in like the first data pack, I think.
Yeah, we'll get to him.
A lot of that shit bleeds together for me just because I got into the game when I think 3 packs had already been released.
I mean, that's better than me. I got in at creation and control, so the whole first cycle blurs together.
That's fair. But yeah, it's just being an upgrade. If you're gonna slot upgrade, which is a weird sort of deck building kind of place to be in, I
Mhm.
never used a lot of upgrades. I don't know if you were the same.
There were times. There are definitely some upgrades that were worth using. Caprice Nisei, as you mentioned, is very effective at making servers difficult to get into consistently because she's bullcrap. Things like Chrysium Grid were very, very useful at
Yes.
times.
I toward the end, the last next deck that I had built, and this was actually one of the first upgrades that I had put in it for a very long time, was Biovault, which was just another upgrade that just had a really strong effect that something like this just pales in comparison to.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I think the thing is that upgrades that were worth running, um, they really they really sling some meat, and
Hmm.
this does not.
No, it does not.
This is very milk toast, very just like, oh, the ice protecting the server has +1 strength.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the one of the sad parts about it is it's not even really interesting.
Yeah, it just is what it is, and it just is unfortunately not very good.
Okay, flavor.
Um, I think it's fine. Actually, now that I think about it more, because here's the thing: is I've never really stopped to consider the flavor of this card because I never ran it. Um, well, I think a lot of the flavor comes from the flavor text,
Indeed.
which I'll go ahead and read for us now. Floyd felt the anger in the man before him, ranting against simulants. His programming pushed a routine rebuttal to the front of his thoughts, and the urge to speak it was overwhelming. This is only going to make things worse, he thought. I think like pretty interesting stuff when it comes to like bioroids and their sort of place in the world of Android.
Yeah, it's like okay, because you've uploaded experiences into the memories of these bioroids. They are now more effective at their job. It's kind of different.
Yeah, but then I think it's interesting too that it's talking about how the bioroid itself recognizes from his experiential data. that it's only going to make things worse. And what he's talking
Mhm.
about is putting this card in your deck. I get him. I get him sometimes.
Ugh. You know
But
what? I already like the card better because of that.
But yeah, no. I mean, I think it's cool that I think the function to flavor, it's there. It's maybe not super strong. That hey, the bioroids based on the experiential data of prior bioroid models, just makes them a little better.
Sure, you got to think about it a bit, but it is there.
And then I think the art's fine. Some of the perspectives a little weird. Like looking at it, like why is his the hand that he's like balling up into a fist, the one he's not pointing with, like why does that look like it's like in the background? Like
It is a bit weird, isn't it?
it's got a weird sort of perspective thing going on.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. I think the art's fine. It's not like necessarily bad. I mean, this crazy, punk dude is just really mad that this robot exists in front of him. Floyd was one of the characters in the Android board game, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Uh, no idea.
I never played it, but I believe that Floyd is one of the characters that you can play as, one of the investigators that you can play as an android. So yeah, neat little throwback, I guess. Well, flavor's fine. I'll put flavor in the pretty good category.
It's okay. It's okay.
All right. So where are we throwing experiential data on the rating?
Uh, 0.
Yeah, that's fair. But I am sticking to my guns here. In that again, not all unplayed cards are created equal. I think that experiential data sucks. I think that it really always sucked, and I don't think it ever really found a home. And I sure as hell never put it in anything. But I don't think that it's offensively bad, and so I'm gonna give it a 1.
It's boring though.
I mean, it is boring, but I think boring is different than just being like, what the fuck is this? Like, why? Like, this is terrible.
Listen, at least corporate troubleshooter made us laugh, man.
Yeah, that's true. Really, maybe I should just change my ratings then and give corporate troubleshooter a 1 and experiential data a 0.
That
But
would
no,
be being contrary, isn't it?
no. Like I said, I do think that experiential data is significantly less bad than corporate troubleshooter is.
Perhaps.
So I'm giving it a 1. All right. Well, this was an exciting episode. This, I think we really got rolling on this one.
Yeah, yeah. Rolled through them a bit. Next time, though, we get to talk about an actually good corporation.
Ooh. Well, I doubt that that's true because we've already talked about the one good one that exists in the game. So, anyway, hopefully, we'll come back next episode with the same amount of energy. Hopefully, we can implement this experiential data that we've culminated on this episode to make an even better one next time.
And if not, we will corporate troubleshooter our way to figuring out what we did wrong.
Shut the fuck up.